Bitch drive a all white rank. Couldn't hit it if you niggas had aim. Lanes can't call and you lame. You had it and you lost it, all the shame. I can buy a Billy, don't talk to me. For a show 150, don't talk to me.
The Houston Rockets this season had one of the more unorthodox seasons that I've ever seen in my entire life as an NBA fan. Starting off the NBA season with a record of 9-11 and then 11-14, and it looked very bleak for the Houston Rockets as they were viewed as the #1 contenders to the Golden State Warriors. But as the season progressed, James Harden would play at an elite level that we had never seen since Kobe Bryant in those 05-06 seasons, and he would carry the Houston Rockets to a 4th seed in the Western Conference, and then they would match up with the Golden State Warriors in the second round after dispatching the Utah Jazz in a 5-game series. And then when Kevin Durant went out with his calf injury, I believe a lot of people, or at least people with common sense, believed that the Houston Rockets were in a position that they could have won the entire series and gotten to the NBA Finals, as I believe a majority of people would have favored them to beat either Portland or the Denver Nuggets had the Denver Nuggets gotten out of the second round if they beat Portland. And right now, as we speak, the Houston Rockets lost to the Golden State Warriors in Game 6, as Steph Curry and Klay Thompson would have remarkable games, primarily Steph Curry, as he had one of the greatest fourth quarters in NBA history. So what is the problem with the Houston Rockets? Why do they always fail in the postseason? Whether it's against the Spurs or whether it's against the Golden State Warriors, this team always finds a way to lose in the postseason in such a sad fashion. Well, in today's video, we're going to talk about the real reason why the Houston Rockets are never going to win a championship, at least in this James Harden, Mike D'Antoni era. Unless they change certain things that I'm going to address in this video, the championship that the Houston Rockets have been eluding over the past few seasons is never going to come to pass. But before we go any further with this video, make sure you guys drop a like and comment your opinions. I would love to know what you guys think is the reason why the Houston Rockets keep getting knocked out of the playoffs prematurely in some people's eyes. And you guys also make sure you drop a like down below and subscribe and hit the bell to be notified, and follow me on Twitter. The links for social media will be down below. But back to this video. The Houston Rockets are always a team that a lot of people are saying are title contenders in the Western Conference. I mean, having someone like a James Harden who goes out there every single night and puts up around 25, and now this season and last season over 30 points a game, and can facilitate any type of offense like only a handful of players in the NBA can do, it's very apparent that they have a superstar. And then when you consider that they added Chris Paul 2 seasons ago to this roster, another ball handler who can go out there and put up elite level assist numbers on really low turnovers, it's very, very obvious that their backcourt is one of the best backcourts that I think the NBA has ever seen, at least on paper when you look at the talent. And then also when you look at some of the other role players on this team, Eric Gordon is a really solid role player that has really rejuvenated his career over the past few seasons with the Houston Rockets. Also having Clint Capella, who can go out there and give you around 15 points and grab around 10 rebounds and play defense at a really high level, in a borderline elite level, some people may argue elite level. And also having other role players such as PJ Tucker, Gerald Green, some other players that can provide some level of consistency, and PJ Tucker obviously playing defense at a very high level. So what is the problem with this team? Well, in my opinion, the real problem with this team comes down to one simple reason: play style. The play style of this team is very, very simple. Having someone like a James Harden who's very ball dominant, sure, he can play off ball, but let's just drop that for a minute. He's a very ball dominant player, a guy who likes to dribble so many times, sets up isolation plays, and let's be honest, step back threes, take it to the paint, draw a foul, if not, continues with the play, and does the exact same thing over and over. Sometimes he'll pass it to someone like PJ Tucker on the perimeter or an Eric Gordon, and occasionally Eric Gordon will do his own plays, isolation, off the bench at times. It just varies from moment to moment, but usually it's Chris Paul and James Harden doing ISO plays and then distributing to the respective role players on the perimeter, or giving it to Clint Capella for an alley-oop. And the problem with that is that they're so predictable. James Harden has always been known as a predictable player. He's either someone that's going to take a step back three, take it to the paint, and get the foul. That's literally all he does. Step back or draw a foul from the three or from the layup. And when you have that kind of play style in the playoffs, it just does not work. Because when the refs are not giving you those calls because they allow more physicality, that's when you have those low field goal percentage nights for James Harden and those historic, and I mean historic, three-point shooting woes that James Harden goes through sometimes in the playoffs, as we saw in Game 7, not just from him, but from the entire Houston Rockets team. And this is not just a James Harden problem. Chris Paul throughout his entire career has been known to be a ball dominant player, someone who has those high assist to turnover numbers, and someone who goes out there and puts up elite level numbers when it comes to passing. But because he handles the ball so much, sometimes he sustains injury, and I don't think it's a coincidence when you see how many times he handles the ball. And don't get me wrong, it's not like that doesn't work for him, but how many conference finals did he get to until he got to the Houston Rockets? Oh, that's right, he got to 0, because he got to his first one last season. And honestly, don't get me wrong, it's not like they haven't been successful and they don't win games in the regular season and sometimes in the postseason, because over the past 2 years, they've lost to the same team. They beat the Utah Jazz and also the Minnesota Timberwolves. So it's not like they haven't been successful in the postseason or in the regular season. But when you look at the past 3 years for the Houston Rockets, look at the teams that they have lost to. Steve Kerr, the coach of the Golden State Warriors, twice back-to-back years, this year and last year. And what was the previous season? It was the San Antonio Spurs and Greg Popovich. Greg Popovich and Steve Kerr literally know how to defend players such as James Harden. Let's take Greg Popovich first. Greg Popovich has seen someone like a James Harden, not in terms of play style, but in terms of how the coach utilizes him in the system, and that is Steve Nash. Steve Nash was a very ball-dominant player, someone who goes out there and puts up these crazy assist numbers, but when he played the San Antonio Spurs and Popovich matched up with Mike D'Antoni, he knew how to shut that system down. He made all the role players beat him instead of having Steve Nash beat him. And when you look at how some of those games went down in the Golden State Warriors series, that's exactly what Steve Kerr did. Clint Capella was not stepping up. You want to know why? Because his game is very dependent on someone like a James Harden or a Chris Paul. PJ Tucker as well. Now, Eric Gordon can sometimes do his own thing off the bench, but there's only so much that someone like Eric Gordon can do. He's not great enough to be a third option on a championship team. That's just my personal opinion. And when you look at this roster and how it's constructed, I still don't understand why they did not fill up that small forward position. I mean, that was a position that they heavily struggled with, especially when you consider that they went out to get Carmelo Anthony and that was a botch. And then when you consider that they went to get Iman Shumpert, of all the players on the buyout market, why would you get Iman Shumpert? I mean, Wesley Matthews was literally there ripe for the picking, and they let the Indiana Pacers take him. Now, I don't know if they just didn't have the money to sign him. I don't have all those numbers in front of me. Y'all let me know in the comment section. But it was very puzzling why they didn't go after Wesley Matthews. That is a player that can shoot the three ball, in my opinion, better than Trevor Ariza did last year, and can play defense, in my opinion, better than Trevor Ariza did last year and in previous seasons with the Houston Rockets. So I just don't understand why they didn't fill that position up. But in conclusion, the Houston Rockets' real problem is the way they play. This is a team that is too dependent on two individual players, that one is injury prone and is aging and getting old, and the other's game, let's be honest, just doesn't win championships, especially when you consider that in the playoffs, his game is not as effective as it is in the regular season because physicality is more allowed. So how do you fix this problem? For one, if Mike D'Antoni is not willing to change the way that he's been coaching teams for literally over the past decade, then he needs to go. And secondly, get James Harden to change the way that he plays, because it's clear that that play style may work for him in the regular season and get him all those MVPs and all NBA selections, but it's not going to help him come postseason time when it's time to win a championship. And when it comes to Chris Paul, honestly, there's probably nothing you can do about that. Because once you signed them to that big ass contract that they did this previous offseason, they put themselves in a position where they have to win a championship the next year, or that contract was one of the worst mistakes that the Rockets could have ever made. And it looks like the latter part of that statement is what has come to pass right now. And honestly, because of the fact that I don't see a lot of these changes happening in the near future, I just don't think the Houston Rockets are going to win a championship anytime soon. But you guys in the comment section, y'all let me know your opinions down below. If you think I'm right, let me know. If you think I'm wrong, y'all also let me know in the comment section. Also, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell to be notified, and follow me on Twitter and on Instagram. The links are down below in the description box. Y'all have a great day. This is your boy Young Mustard signing out. Peace.